I had a really awesome time with April today. I think she's done such a fantastic job of finding balance between her personal life and her business, as well as creating products that I think will really last the kind of test of time. And I think we learned specifically about how her family has influenced that mindset and that philosophy. Remember that if you enjoyed the show today, to be a friend, tell a friend, and subscribe. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the show.
Influencers, inspiration, and Instagram. This is Earned by Tribe Dynamics. Here's Conor Begley.
Welcome to Earned, everybody. Today we have one of the most focused entrepreneurs I have ever met, April Gargiulo. Welcome to the show, April.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm just always so happy when my last name gets pronounced right. That was really well done.
And I actually didn't even ask you in the prep before the call. I usually do that, so I'm glad I got it right.
You nailed it.
Well, for those that don't know April, her family founded and she helped to run the renowned Gargiulo Vineyards in Napa Valley, where you guys produce, I think, some of the most highly touted wines in the world. And then since then, you've started your own brand. It looks like with a lot of similar philosophies to the way that you guys approach the winemaking business. Vintner's Daughter, which has become a favorite both of consumers, influencers, celebrities. And I think one of the most interesting parts about it is it's highly focused, right? So both the vineyard as well as your brand have a very, very limited number of products, right? So for you guys, you've got the two cult products, Active Essence Treatment and Active Botanical Serum, which you spent years developing both. And I'm really excited to dive in on that because I think that when you look at the way that most people build their brands, whether it's a winery or it's, a skincare brand or otherwise, it's always about new, how can we grow as fast as we possibly can? And I think you've taken a different approach there, which I think there's a lot to learn from. So I'm excited.
Thanks for that amazing introduction. I appreciate it.
So let's start with the entrepreneurship side of things, right? So for me, I didn't grow up necessarily in a family of entrepreneurs, although my grandpa, I guess, kind of was in some ways. What is it that you think attracted your family to that lifestyle, and then ultimately attracted you as well, right? Because I don't know that everybody in your family decided to kind of
right. No, that's a good question. I think, I'll start with my grandfather, who who chose agriculture as his entrepreneurial endeavor because he really loved to fish. And so this is a true story, he would grow tomatoes in Florida. He would then, and that was a winter crop. He would grow them, he would sell them all, and then he would go to the Bahamas for 6 months and fish, spend all his money, and then come back, start again. And this was his, that he felt like he had, it was everything he ever wanted. And then he had, not bad. And then he had my dad and his family, or his brothers and sister. And, his wife was like, this doesn't really work anymore once the kids go to school, we've got to get serious. And then, as soon as my father, I think, graduated from college, I think he pretty much said, okay, I'm gone. I've done my time, now the business is yours. And so my father, has done kind of entrepreneurial endeavors since then, but that was something that I don't think he had a big choice in the matter, to be honest. He has been they've been incredibly amazing about, he went on to create this winery, and I was never pressured into working at the winery. It was something that I was really excited to do. So there was, I think he learned from his parents, but yeah, to some degree, the entrepreneurial spirit was there wasn't a choice. And then some degree it was, I think it was just everything, all you know. And then my mom on the same side grew. She came from an entrepreneurial family. My grandfather was in real estate and started a real estate business and an insurance business, and then she went on to do similar in the similar spaces. And so I think, I don't know, maybe I didn't even have a choice, to be honest. I think about it and it doesn't feel like not that I didn't have a choice, but it just felt like something in like that I had to do. I mean, when I was creating Vintner's Daughter, I was parallel pathing 3 different businesses. Right.
So, what were the other businesses?
Right. So the other, oh my gosh, it's so funny when I think about it, Conor. Okay, so one of them was, I still, of course, own all the URLs for these crazy things. One of them was a low-calorie wine. It was called Skinny Vine. And this was obviously, like 100 years ago. And then one of them was Mighty Butter and Mighty Pantry, which were superfood infused. Everything was superfood infused, right? Like nut butters, coconut, all the things, right? And then Vintner, skincare, Vintner's Daughter. And interestingly, I probably knew the most about obviously wine and then food world to a certain degree. And, I had no experience in the skincare world other than having been somebody who had always been like insanely interested in skincare all my life. Mm-hmm. I always joke that, when all my friends in their 20s were buying really expensive handbags, I was buying really expensive skincare. Well, I mean, anyway, so it was, I think it was in many ways, like almost like a vocation.
Yeah. I think that's something where you're just so ingrained in it. It doesn't even seem like there's an alternative. And to be honest, I kind of had the reverse. Like both my dad, he started a company. He's an electromagnetic engineer, right? So he built like stealth technology for planes and stuff. And so, but he was at the same company from like the time I was conscious till retirement. Right. And then my mom got her master's in psychology and was a probation officer, right? And kind of rose up the ranks and did that, but was at the same county doing the same, department for 30 years. And so from when I was conscious till when she retired. And so for me, being an entrepreneur was like a dirty word. It's like, oh, you don't have like a real job, right?
Oh, like fascinating. Right.
Yeah, the complete opposite for me. And so for me, it was kind of like, I had to actually overcome that. Like when we were first starting the company, I didn't like to tell people that like I was starting a company. Cause I'm like, oh, like you're unemployed is what you're telling me. Right. Like
even in the Bay Area where I feel like I'm an entrepreneur in the Bay Area, but because I'm not in tech entrepreneur in the Bay Area, I feel like I'm, in witness protection sometimes.
Like, oh, you have a company, like what kind of app?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's something you can actually hold in your hand and actually apply,
Yeah. Wait, so I'm curious about these kind of failed endeavors or not pursued endeavors, I'll say. So why was Skinny Wine not a thing? I'm actually kind of curious about that.
I know, right? Okay, well, I will tell you how so I was parallel pathing each of these, and I remember this conversation so distinctly. I was sitting in our kitchen with my husband, and he is actually also a serial entrepreneur, by the way. And so he was kind of looking at me saying, you got to pick one. Like I think today it's sort of an in thing for people to be doing. I mean, an in thing sounds ridiculous, but it's a little more acceptable that people do more than one thing at a time. But at this point, he's looking at me going, April, like you got to choose something. You got to choose one. Yep. Okay, tell me about each one. Told him about Mighty Butter, told him about Skinny Vine. Then I told him about Vintner's Daughter. And I think it was just very clear by how I was talking about. I mean, I probably talked about Skinny Vine for 2 minutes, Mighty Butter for 5. And then, with kind of my eyes all like alive, spoke about Vintner's Daughter for 15 minutes or something. And so, it became very clear which one I should focus on just from that. And, it was the one, to your point, it was the one that I kind of almost didn't have a choice in the matter. Like it was the one that I just felt like I really needed to pursue.
Yeah. I don't know how people do the multi-business thing. I mean, you're kind of doing it, right? But like, I remember when we first started Tribe, I was like really dead set on creating a food delivery company, which ironically they've done very well over the years.
Wait, so, really?
Yeah. So, well, I'll tell you the idea, right? So, we called it Nom Nom Neighbor. And what it was basically, right? So you have all these people that are sitting around that like make meals, right? They make these beautiful meals. Mm-hmm. And it's much easier to make like 2 portions of the same thing than it is to make 1 portion of one thing, right? And so the idea was to allow
of food,
right? And so you allow neighbors to like cook for each other, and right, they could get ratings and reviews and do all this kind of stuff. And
listen, I think this is genius,
right? And then you have, because you have a lot of people that are like stay-at-home moms that are looking for additional ways to earn income, and they could do this, right?
Kitchens. It would have given a rise to ghost kitchens way before
Yeah, well, and then on top of that too, right? Assuming you're doing it, you can pitch it as like you're building closer neighborhoods, right? People are getting
Yes.
to know each other better, and like you actually can cut out all of the delivery, right? Because you literally walk down
Yes.
the street and pick it up. And so I think it's a real thing. I mean, there is
Oh, shoot.
one issue, right? Which is like it's definitely illegal. So like you have to have. So that's the only issue. So the
Lighter. Wait, which part of it is illegal? Just because you're
so
you're cutting out restaurants or somebody's not
no,
getting
it's
their
the
cut?
it's kind of bullshit, right? But basically what it is if you cook hot food, you have to have like certain
Oh,
things, right? So
licenses.
you have to be like a certain kind of kitchen to
Right.
prevent like,
Right.
but I think you can figure that out. And at the time, if you remember, this was a while ago, right? And this was kind of when like the cool thing was being like, I'm Uber, like the laws don't matter. I'm just going to break the rules until
Right.
or I'm Airbnb, the laws don't matter. I'm just going to break the rules until.
Well, that's what I was just thinking. How did those guys get around it?
I mean, it was like consumer demand, right? Consumers really wanted it. And like, eventually laws changed. Yeah. But like, anyway, so we like had the website built. We had a launch plan. We were going to go kind of start with a very small neighborhood in San Francisco because you wanted it to be concentrated. And then, and then I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do two businesses. Like, it just doesn't, I can't. So, and maybe that happens later, right? Once you become a little bit more mature as a business, right? That requires less like of your individual effort. But,
well, I don't know, because I wanted to create a gin business for, I don't know, probably as long as I'd wanted to create Vintner's Daughter, maybe a couple of years later, and haven't been able to figure out the time to do that.
No, it's crazy. So I'm curious. So like, one of the things that was interesting for me in, when you meet your significant other, right, you get to observe how their family works. And I think her family is very well run. They do a really good and well run in the best kind of way, right? They like do a good job. The family, they're very intentional. And so one of the things they talk about is they actually have like family values, right? So it's like family, faith, humor, and hard work, right? Those are the things. So what I'm curious about is if any of your kind of family values, considering the heritage of entrepreneurship, like kind of what those were, and they don't have to have been stated, but like, are there particular philosophies or values?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. And I don't think it was something that anyone put words to, but it was something that was actioned consistently throughout my life. And that is quality and craftsmanship. I mean, 100%. I can remember being a little kid and all my other friends were eating Chef Boyardee and I wanted Chef Boyardee so badly. And
you weren't getting any, what are they called? Lunchables, snackables, whatever those were. No lunchables.
Absolutely not. No, my dad was curing his own, meats, was making his own salami, was making his own pasta. And so it was very much this, with both within my house, but then also within the larger community. Like Napa Valley is this place filled with these incredible people who really have this like very deep passion for quality and craftsmanship. It's what really informed my ideas around luxury. And so when I had this realization that, again, I said that I was the person buying expensive skincare, not expensive bags. And when I had the realization that this expensive skincare I was buying was really anything but luxury, was when I started thinking about Vintner's Daughter. I recognized that these products, they were $300 products, insanely expensive. And there was no quality and craftsmanship that was going into them, right? It was all packaging. And for me, growing up in this place where what was in the bottle is what mattered most, right? And with winemaking, you have this kind of like further level of consideration that you're trying to create something that's going to get better as time goes on, right?
Yeah. Well, you literally have people like rating and scoring you, right? Like, do you get 96 points? Do you get like, there's nobody doing that really in these markets, right? It wasn't how consumers were making decisions. It wasn't based on quality.
Oh, well, I would argue that the point system is not necessarily.
Well, I didn't mean, that sounds like a sensitive subject in Napa Valley. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. I will just say this. I mean, maybe it is a sensitive thing. Maybe it's not. We don't participate in it. So I actually, I think for many people, they live by the sword and they die by the sword, right? So we're very lucky that we don't participate in it, and we've always sort of stood outside of it, which is, we're grateful for that. But what that is that you have one person or two people or even three people who are dictating the taste and the flavor profiles for every single wine drinker. I mean, that's just isn't. Yeah. I mean, like that's way too much power for any one person to wield to create any kind of healthy ecosystem for any industry, right? But anyway, yeah. I mean, so back to the family values, I would say, quality and craftsmanship, absolutely. Yep. Totally. We're infused into everything we did.
Is there, I mean, something else that's interesting about that to me, right? There's a quality and craftsmanship, which is a big part of it. It also seems like focus is like a really big part of it, right? So like, being intensely focused, both from like a business perspective, but also from a life perspective. Like your grandfather, yeah, of course he loves fishing and he does that, but that's like a really important like value, right? Like that's a demonstration of values to the family. Like, hey, yes, business is important, making money is important, but like doing the things that you love.
Quality of life.
Yeah, quality of life is a big deal. Yeah. Is that something you feel like has kind of continued on, through the family as an important component?
I think it is. And I think the way that it kind of sees itself in Vintner's daughter is that, like, I'm not building a scale and sale company, right? Yep. It's not what I want to build. I want to build a company that has an extraordinarily positive impact on our customers' skin and their lives and our world. Yeah. And we take that very seriously, and that's what drives us. Yes. Do we have to be profitable? Yes. Do we have to like have, revenue and growth and all the things? Yes, yes, yes. But I think, in the same way that my grandfather wasn't like living to breathe oxygen, like he was breathing oxygen so that he could go, or he was making money so that he could go fish. Like he wasn't living to make money. He was doing that so he could go pursue his, whatever his Valhalla was. And for us, I think it's a similar thing. I'm here because I want to make this incredible impact on people's skin, and not, again, like really just kind of scaling and selling a company.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's hard, I think, when you're in that. I think there's two things, right? So one, it's hard because there's something that's very rewarding about achievements, money, right? It's a recognition. It's a way to like validate, like, oh, my hard work resulted in something, right? As well as it's really hard from a confidence perspective, right? You have to be confident that, that it's going to be enough, right? Which I think is hard for some people, validly so. And so it's just really cool. It's really cool that you guys have been able to find that balance and do it through this kind of craftsmanship and quality thing, right? Like we're going to do a smaller number of things way better, right? And we know that that's going to be the best way to do it, right?
To your point, when you see everything around you is being rewarded for far different they're like, it's almost like everyone else is playing a different game, right? Yep. The rewards and the metrics are just completely different than the game that you want to play. Like sometimes I just have to put blinders on because it's it can kind of erode that confidence in some ways, and make it feel like, oh man, everybody else is doing that. Should I be doing that? That looks much like, that just looks like very clear cut. It looks pretty easy. I just put out a new product every 2 weeks, and like, that doesn't feel like that would be that. I mean, work, but you're following a playbook. I'm like creating this whole new playbook over here, right? And so, I mean, there are days that are harder than others, Conor, for sure.
I think you've kind of hit on this already, but you said in another interview, literally what you're saying now, which is like, you have to not worry about what everyone else is doing, find your North Star, kind of follow that relentlessly. Mm-hmm. Would you say kind of what we've talked about already is your North Star? Or do you have a more defined version of that? Like what would be your North Star if you were to kind of state it?
Yeah, I mean, the North Star is that, through this incredible focus on quality and craftsmanship and impact, and that impact being this positive impact we want to make on our clients and our customers, our community skin, but also their world. That is what we focus on. That is what we drive to every day.
And what about for you personally?
Well, I mean, listen, I have two girls. So I have two little girls. I want to be a good role model for them. I want to have a really healthy family. So I have guardrails around work and business to a certain degree. I've been in positions where I had no guardrails and in regards to and I didn't, and at the time I didn't have family. I wasn't married and have kids. And I was on planes, trains, and automobiles 24/7, constantly on the go. So one of the things that when I started Vintner's Daughter, I had a very real, and I don't have investors, right? So let's put that out there. I don't have investors. So I don't have people breathing down my throat about what I believe to be like unreasonable, unhealthy growth targets. But again, I'm not trying to sell this company in 3 years. So for me, and this is, I don't know, this is probably this revolutionary thing to say, but I have, my growth targets are 25 to 30% a year. Like if I can do that every year, I can create this extraordinarily healthy, durable company.
I mean, people underestimate how quickly even something like 15% compounds over time. Like it's wild.
Yes, the power of compounding. Yes, I mean we all learned that in whatever third or fourth grade, whenever you learn that. But it's real.
I remember seeing a stat, and I'm going to butcher the stat, but they like listed this company profile, and they were like, okay, this company's been growing somewhere between 25 and 60% a year, every year for like 15 years in a row. And it like listed all these different stats. Like, what is the company? And you're like, people picked out names, and it was Amazon. And people are like, Amazon? Like, what? Like, and it's like, you don't realize how fast, if you do that every single year, how big that gets.
Right.
And again, I don't think your goal is to get as big as possible, but I think that people underestimate that. So, and building, and I think, frankly, if you look at luxury brands, a lot of the luxury brands that have done really well will actually intentionally limit their growth, right?
Yes.
Like Chanel doesn't want to grow faster than X%, right? They do not want to outpace the brand, right? So it's, it is revolutionary in some circles, but in other circles, I think it's it's
old fashioned. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like I say revolutionary only because today's world is so wild, right? But it's a very old world way to build a business.
Yeah, we had a good friend and his dad when we were first starting Tribe and just getting going. He's like, grow slow. I was like, what? He's like, grow slow. It's like, I want you to do that for me. Right. It's like, okay. Like it's always stuck with me. It was like so like counterintuitive to what the other advice I'd been given. But it seemed like very intentional. And so, that's really cool. So you talked about your daughters and being kind of a role model to your daughters. You've also been quoted as saying Tracy Ellis Ross was a kind of an icon of yours.
Oh, I die for her. I love her.
So what is it about her that makes her kind of an icon for you or a role model for you?
Well, I mean, oh gosh, I mean, I love her. So I have no words, right? Okay, so I just think she's really cool. I think she's got incredible style, incredible taste. I think she's obviously this extraordinarily hardworking, accomplished woman. She was also the first sort of celebrity to ever mention Vintner's Daughter in an interview or anything. And so, I mean, at that point, I thought I had made it. I was like, are you kidding me? Tracy Ellis Ross, this is Vintner's Daughter. Oh my God. But I mean, yeah, I'm just like a giant, ridiculous fangirl of Tracy Ellis Ross.
So let's talk about some of kind of your, actually, no, I don't want to go that direction. I want to go this direction. So we're still talking about your background. And I think if you were to look at, your about section on a website, or if you were to read, your resume, quote unquote, like most resumes, it's going to look like a string of successes, right? Just kind of one thing after another. What was the hardest kind of period in your life professionally coming into today?
That's a great question. I mean, I think, listen, I mean, where I'm at right now is challenging, right? We have a very successful business and we're, coveted and beloved around the world and all the things, but I've never done this before. I've never been a CEO of any company, much less a company that's growing like we are. And again, a company that's kind of going against the grain in so many ways. So navigating that, I think is, I mean, it's really challenging for me. It's super challenging.
What's the path to making it less challenging?
Team, right? I think team, having this year, I don't have a board of directors yet, so I really want to get a really great board of directors, like sort of having like a personal board of directors also. I mean, you probably experienced this too, just having those crew of people that you can kind of call up and say, you've been through this before, you've lived through this before, you've seen this before, how, what are my options? What can I do here? What should I do here? What am I like not thinking about that I should be thinking about? Ultimately it's just about for me, I think putting together like a team in every aspect.
Would you ever hire an outside CEO?
Yeah. I mean, I would think about it for sure.
Interesting. Why is that?
I think I've created something with really, really strong DNA, like incredibly strong DNA. And ultimately, I think hiring a CEO to come in would I would imagine be the logical step. And then I could go start a gin company.
I like gin too. I'm down.
I'm sort of joking, but really everything I do in terms of like strengthening our brand and strengthening just our like core mission and the DNA of the business is there so that somebody else could come in and understand it and run it and all of that would not only maintain but grow stronger.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've personally run into similar kind of times, right?
Where I'm sure you have.
Yeah. Like when we were first kind of scaling up, I had 60 or 70% of the company reporting into me. And, but also, I was on the road constantly, right? Traveling, speaking, doing stuff like this. And so, it made it really hard to be supportive of the team, number one. And then number two, at that point, when we started Tribe, I had, 2 or 3 years worth of working experience and had never managed a single person. Right. And so you're trying to figure out like how to run a company, how to be a good manager, how to do all of these things while simultaneously not even being in the office half the time. Right. Or being even available half the time. Right. And so, so we made some pretty big changes.
That was pre-Zoom world. I mean, that was even when like you could occasionally show up in person in real life, right?
Yeah, this was pre-pandemic, right? So, yeah, so that was a big change that we made internally. We moved all the reporting under John and had me focus entirely externally, and it was great. But it's there are like real moments like that are tough as you build the business, realizing what you're really good at as well as what you actually enjoy doing.
Yes, absolutely. Like how can you benefit the company most?
Yeah. So what's up next for Vintner's Daughter? Are you going to release a third product? Will it happen?
Will it happen? Yeah. I mean, I hope so. I mean, I'm not against new products. For us, it has to live up the standards that a product that wears a Vintner's Daughter label has to live up to is extraordinary, right? From a sourcing standpoint, from a formulation standpoint, and ultimately a performance standpoint and an impact standpoint. And so that takes time, and we don't take it lightly. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll have products. I would love to have, see what we could do for body. I'd love to be able to treat the body in the same way that you do the face. I would love a cleanser. I'd love an SPF. I mean, there's things that we would love to understand how we'd be able to bring our level of our standards to those categories.
For sure. I think you mentioned that it took you about 2 years to develop the most recent release.
Oh, no, serum was 2.5 years. Essence was 4.5 years.
Yeah. So
Oh,
what does
yeah.
that like process look like? What
It's
is a 2 year,
okay.
4 year process?
Well, so for Essence, it was okay. So the way that we make product is unlike anybody else. So we're not using synthetics, we're not using powders, we're not using whatever. It would be like in wine. Would you want to drink? Would the finest wine in the world have cherry flavor number 10 in it and oak flavor number 2? No, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of the like most expensive skincare in the world, that's basically what they're using. They're using like synthetic versions, like cheap, inexpensive synthetic versions of these incredible actives that really do help the skin, right? And so for Vintner's Daughter, we want to go to the source. We want to create that connection to the skin in the most powerful way through those nutrients. And so we begin with whole plants. Unlike anyone else, we begin with whole plants, some of the most nutrient dense plants in the world. And we have this proprietary process that we call our phytoradiance infusion. And it's this very gentle, very temperature controlled way that we capture all of those actives and nutrients and all those amazing parts of that plant. And in those like very kind of like symphonic ratios that come from nature, right? These perfect ratios that, because plants and our bodies metabolize nutrients in almost the exact same way, we're able to create these formulas that the skin understands and recognizes and can like very effectively and efficiently put to work, right? And it's these nutrients in the most perfect ratios. And so we're establishing this like very deep connection to the skin through our formulation processes. And so did that answer the question?
I think it does. I guess what I would say is, so that makes sense. So let's say that now you've kind of come up with what you want to focus on, right? So you've got the cleanser, you've got some of the kind of core ingredients. What's your testing process? What's your feedback loop? How do you know that it's, what you want it to be?
Yeah. So we go through like listen, we've had 2 products, right? So the first product, the feedback loop was like me and like 5 or 6 friends, right? I mean,
which is honestly a good feedback loop at times.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, and then for Essence, Active Treatment Essence, our second product, it was different, right? We had kind of like a couple different panels of independent people that we put together. And so, and that was, obviously like, it felt like very official next to what the
first process was. Yeah.
And so we would probably do similar to that moving forward. I mean, a lot of times, again, when you're using these kind of like lab purchase synthetics, they kind of come with, you can like buy clinicals along with the ingredients, right? And they don't have those for plants. Like plants don't have a PR team. Plants, it's like, it doesn't, we're not dealing with the same infrastructure, right? It's all the things that's kind of on us to have to do. And, we're really lucky because like our entire growth, and I know this is a crazy thing, but all of our growth has been word of mouth, right? Yep. And so, we have these extraordinary testimonials. We get, testimonials every day from all sorts of people, all ages, skin tones, like skin issues all over the world. And so ultimately that to me is what's most meaningful.
Mm-hmm. So I don't mean to go back to kind of an earlier topic, but it was a question I meant to ask and then forgot about. So you mentioned very specifically that you put kind of guardrails in place, right? In terms of prioritizing personal life and professional life, after having a string of, no guardrails. So what are your kind of systems there? What are the guardrails how do you kind of prioritize and manage your own life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, simple things like we eat dinner together every night. Right? Yeah. Like we are together every single morning. Weekends are family. I travel very little. I take very few business trips. And I mean, those are the big ones. I mean, it's super simple, but it's just, you have to kind of put them in place and you have to like live, make it actually happen.
Well, I think it's really easy to kind of, say like, it's just this Saturday or it's just this.
And let's be real, like I don't have a big social life, Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I don't have a big social life. I don't have, I'm not, that's just not that's not what my life is right now. It is like
Yeah.
my family, my business, and then, a kind of a select group of friends.
Yeah. One of the best articles I've read on that topic, it was from the dean of this university, and it was actually meant for women, wasn't meant for men. Or I mean, I guess that's who it was addressed to, I should say. And what she was saying was that, in life, there is a limited amount of time, right? So there's only so many things that you can do. And that she felt like there was what's the word I'm looking for?
Unfair.
An unrealistic pressure to kind of be all things, right?
Right. At the same time, right?
At the same time.
At the same time. That's the issue, right?
Yeah. And it's like, I think she said, it's like, if you want to be the partner at the law firm, you're not going to get every night and weekend to yourself, right? If you want to, you're not going to go to every PTA meeting. Like, that's not going to happen. And I can't remember if it was that she compared it this way or somebody else did, but kind of compared it. Basically, think of it as like a stove, right? You got 4 different burners, and you've got family, friends, health, and work, right? So those are like the big categories that people generally spend time in. Like, if you want to be really good at something, you can really only pick 2 at any one time, right? And like, you can kind of stretch it to 3, but it's really kind of 2. And so, the important point is not for that to be like defeatist or, not to feel good.
It's just to prioritize.
Make choices, right? Like,
prioritize and ladder your choices back to those priorities. Yes. And it's not easy, but
but you have to be comfortable with that, right? Like, I'm exactly the same. My time right now is family and business, a little bit of health. And then like, I just haven't been able to spend a lot of time with friends, and like, that's okay, right? It's okay to do that.
Right.
Like, you don't have to beat yourself up that you're not, out with your friends every night.
Right.
So I do.
Yeah, I mean, that it's it's a simple answer, but it's not always easy to achieve.
Totally. Just from a mental health perspective. Very cool. Okay. So let's talk about kind of books. So I think from what I can books. Yeah, like reading.
Okay, I love books.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I'm bringing it up. Cool. So I think that, from what I can tell, you like them. And
wait, how do you know this? Do I talk about books?
I have my sources, April. So I put a lot of time into these. So, So if you were to have kind of a Mount Rushmore of, say, either authors or books, right? So pick 4. Or I think there's 4 in Mount Rushmore, right? What would they be that you would recommend kind of, others to read?
Oh gosh. Okay. So again, I love reading. I love books. Okay. So I love Zadie Smith, David Foster Wallace.
That's 2 out of 4. Be careful. You only have 4.
Okay. I would have to just pick like this one book. Like, I don't know that I've even read anything else but from the author. The Understory.
Okay.
Gosh, that book really meant a lot to me. I read
What is it?
It's maybe I read it like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years. No, because it wasn't it was pre-COVID. So like 3 years ago. Gosh, it's a really beautiful book. It's sort of on the surface about it's about trees, which sounds really boring, but it's a really good book. And can I come up with the 4th during the rest of this conversation?
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah, give it time.
Joan Didion. I love Joan Didion.
Okay.
But I could name 20 others, so I'm just going to say because, yeah.
How many books are you burning through in a month? Like, what's your consumption rate?
Well, I would not say that sleep is like something that comes easily to me. So,
okay. All right.
So I tend to read at night. So I don't know, probably a book or 2 a week.
Wow.
But also I'm fiction. Like, I'm not reading nonfiction.
I'm like, you go through phases. Like, I think I've gone through both fiction and nonfiction phases.
Yeah.
God, I don't want to dive too much deeper on this, but I'm actually really curious about this, right? So I kind of fell off with fiction, and then And then I was like, okay, I need to get back into it. And so, you're going to hate this because you're not a ratings person, but I was like, let's go to the ratings, right? And I like went to Goodreads.
What ratings would you go to? Like where, what?
So it's Goodreads, right? So
Oh,
Goodreads
okay,
is
yeah.
right. And so I feel like there's it's a good community to get.
I do too, absolutely.
And so so went through and just looked for the highest rated books, like in
Mm-hmm.
different fiction categories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there was the one that ended up getting turned into a movie, The Martian. It was unbelievably good, right? You learn
Oh, was
about
it?
space
Okay.
and biology and all this kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And it like totally changed my relationship with fiction
Oh,
because
isn't that exciting? That's great.
yeah. Yeah. So how do you decide what to read? Like, what's your process?
Oh, that's a great question. I read, okay, so just authors who I love, right? I just
Yep.
discovered there was a book that I read recently called Hamnet.
Okay.
And the author, I didn't actually love that book that much, but I really loved the way she kind of wrote. And so I
Yeah.
checked out another one because I don't love like historical fiction novels. I don't know why, it's not my thing.
That's funny. I've actually kind of gotten into them. I'm
Have you?
like
Yeah,
kind
I
of a
think
historical
people love
fiction
them. I don't even like historical fiction, like television stuff, right?
guy.
Why? It's like not my thing. But
Yeah.
anyway, I really loved her name was I can't even think, Maggie O'Farrell. And then I read a couple of other of her books. And so I kind of, that one book led me to another, other of her books, which I really enjoyed. But I mean, I think I find authors who I love, and then I'll read everything they've written and then kind of go to the next author and kind of like that, probably.
Yeah, that's your process. Okay, so I'm realizing that we are a marketing company, so I should probably ask you at least one question about marketing. So, and then we'll do one kind of fun end of show question. So, for you, you said you've grown primarily via word of mouth,
Mm-hmm.
but I've definitely seen a lot of press and a lot of
Yes, we've been
other
very lucky about that.
right. So, what would you say have been kind of your guiding philosophies around driving word of mouth, right? Like, how have you found, what are the methods you found that kind of help to accelerate that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, okay, so for the first let's say that there's been a cutoff over the last like year. I think things have changed
Yep.
dramatically. I think all those kind of earned opportunities are just almost non-existent these days.
Yep.
But pre that, I think it was, I mean, we were really lucky with social, right? Everyone had a
Yep.
platform. And so everyone got to be able to share it with their community, which was really, I think, really fortunate for us. And the product actually worked. People purchased it. They fell in love with it. They loved the results, and they would go on to whatever social channel they were, and they would share it with their friends, right? I would get on the phone with anyone, right? Anyone who wanted to learn more about Vintner's Daughter, I was happy to get on the phone with and chat, whether that was the editor of Vogue or somebody with 5,000 followers. And I did that. And, I didn't get on planes, trains, and automobiles for 8 years, but I was on the phone all the time, right? And so that was really important, I think, for us. Something I didn't know about the whole world of beauty before I got into it is that makeup artists are extraordinarily influential. I mean, they are extraordinarily influential. And so there were makeup artists who found us that's how Tracy Ellis Ross found us. That's how Hailey Bieber found us. That's how Gwyneth Paltrow through their makeup artists. Cause I don't have personal relationships with them. So it was very old fashioned in the way that it was built, like very, word of mouth, grassroots growth. Today, I think we're looking at something very different. Today, we're actually thinking about kind of more structured affiliate programs, doing some like remarketing, retargeting, which we've never done before, and kind of dipping our toe into that world.
Yeah, that makes sense. Starting to test out some of these new avenues.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Well, let's go to one kind of fun end of show question.
Well, wait, what just came up for you? I feel like you are holding back. I want to know whatever it is that you're thinking. Because
I don't know that I was thinking about anything else. I think let's think. What was going through my mind in that moment?
Like she should be doing this, they should be doing that. Like I give me the secrets.
No, I don't think I have any secrets. I think what was interesting, what was going through my mind was, this kind of evolution in your, in the maturity of the company, right? So if you were to think about kind of the the topic, right? When we talked about you know, feeling like this might be one of the hardest times in your professional career, right? And then so you got that, plus the company starting to get to bigger scale. You're starting to get beyond just like, hey, we're growing via word of mouth. Now we're going to start testing new marketing strategies, et cetera. It feels like the business is starting to grow to a stage where maybe it's like, this isn't the stuff I'm most interested in anymore, right? Like I'm not interested in like the operational pull and tug of like how an affiliate program works. And like, I don't want to figure out how to like eke out an extra 2% margin, right? Like that's just not like, and that, cause that's not honestly what really gets me excited about business. And so I think I was kind of pausing and absorbing the answer and really thinking about it from that lens. And I could be totally off, but that's just.
I appreciate that. It's actually, I think I'm so in the middle of it that's hard for me to even put words to it yet.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like you're kind of on the other side of it, you know, so you could kind of look back and you've processed it. I think I'm like so still in the middle. I'm like so in the weeds of all of it that it's hard for me to even like put words to it. So that's actually very helpful.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna do a fun question just to end the show. Although we've done a lot of fun questions this time. It's been I like this one a lot. So, so I've also heard, so to your point about not sleeping very well, that you're a bit of a night owl.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to reading, you also do some binging, right? Some Netflixing.
Oh, sure.
So what's your current show you're binging right
now? My husband and I are watching Formula One. That Formula One.
Yeah.
It's like a world that I knew nothing, like zero about, nothing. And of course, it's one of the most popular sports in the world, so it's just fascinating, right? And
I mean, it has been that show's an absolute phenomenon, both in terms of the total viewership and in terms of the the change that it's had. For that sport specifically within the U.S.
Oh,
right?
it has to, because it's just, I mean, we have one Formula One just in Austin. I think we only have one. Not that I'm an expert at this point, but you know, I'm on season 2, so I feel like I know something.
Yeah, totally. Well, I really appreciate you taking out the time, and congratulations on everything that you've achieved. And I think the balance that you've been able to establish between business and your family is something that I think people should look up to, right? I think it's something that a lot more people should like. Actually, that was one of the things. I think one of the things I found most interesting about my own reading journey is I've read a ton of books, and I got really into business books for a minute. And so I was powering through all these business books. And one of the things that I observed, and it hit me in particular, is that if you look at almost all of the authors, right? So I've read the Disney CEO biography, the Steve Jobs, right? All these ones.
Yeah, Jim
almost
Collins,
every single one of them.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right? Almost every single one of them is divorced. And like, it's actually like really consistent across those. And the reason it hits home for me is like my parents are separated and my business partner's parents are separated. And when we started the company, we both said like, hey, business is important, but like family first, right? Like we don't want that to be us. And we've kind of aligned on that. And so, reading through all these people, it's like, oh, wow. Like,
Gosh, they really are, aren't they?
What?
They really are. They're none of, you're right.
All of them.
I'm kind of going through a Rolodex in my head right now too, but you're right.
It's like 90%, right? Of these, like, you look at Bezos, you look at, and I'm like obviously in the tech world, but you look at Elon Musk, you look at even when you had Bill and Melinda Gates, who looked like kind of the perfect family couple, done all of them, right? And when I was reading very specifically the Disney CEOs, I guess it was his autobiography, which is very well reviewed and has a lot of good lessons in it. At one point when he was rising up the ranks, he's like, yeah, my family was in New York, but I had to move to LA. And it just, I didn't get to see him much for the next couple of years. And it's like, and it was like a sentence. And it was like, whoa, like, but again, to your point about focus, like he made a decision, right? That was a thing he was comfortable with.
Well,
but it's not the decision
about focus and more about priority, right?
Yeah.
Like he did, I mean, his family was clear. I mean, his actions make it seem as though his family was not his priority.
Right. And that's what are we if we are not like a collective summary of our actions, right? Like, so I think that, anyway, so I just really admire that you've been able to do that. And I think it's really important, right?
Well,
I think people underestimate it.
Thank you. Well, I mean, we'll see. Family, it's all good, everything. I mean, from a business perspective, I always think like, who knows? It could all go away tomorrow,
Well, I think you guys will be all right. Well, thank you again for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I know I had a really good time today, and so glad we get to meet each other in LA, in that random.
I know, that was fun.
And
I never do stuff like that. So that was really fun.
Yes. And it was. And it was kind of in a weird window where like COVID was like, oh, yeah, it's okay.
Right.
But I really appreciate it, April.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Hit subscribe now. Earned by Tribe Dynamics. Tribe Dynamics unlocks your social media influencer community. Our platform not only tracks and measures your best influencer relationships, but discovers new influencers to grow your business through earned media. Get started with a demo today at tribedynamics.com. tribedynamics.com.